Alright. You're going to want to watch this video first. I made a couple corrections in the video on my notes and whatnot. A lot of this stuff I wrote down a year and a half ago. I made a few minor mistakes. Mostly my confusion in the notes of the firing orders. There's 3.7 computers. I mean, you're going to watch the video, and I'm all over the place. The 3.7 computers, the firing order, once you come up with your cylinder numbers, and I explained the Battle Buddy thing, and I think I had this right the first time, but being that I did this, I'm not quite explaining, because, like I said, I got this in my head and try to explain this to somebody else. The van coils and the Jeep coils, there's only 3 coils. It's waste fire, 3 coils, 2 plugs per coil, 6 cylinder. The first firing order here is for the 3.3. The first coil is number 1, regardless. I said this several times. The first fire coils here and here. These are the Battle Buddy partners. That waste fire coil, this is on compression, this is on exhaust. Same as the Harley, 1 coil, 2 plugs. The second group of coils fires here, 2 and 5. This is the wiring for the van. Now the Jeep log, it's the same 3 coils. Wherever that note's at here. It's the same 3 coils. It's wired the same way. Where I got into confusion with all of this here. This is how the coil log's wired in the Jeep. Pin 1 is coil 1. Pin 3 is coil 2. Pin 4 is coil 3. The van coil, if you want to keep these numbers straight, coil 1 and 4 are the first coil to hit in the van. Coil 2 and 5 hit here, and like I said, the Battle Buddy stuff here we come up with here, 2 and 5 are the second group coils hit. It's simple. It's 1, 2, 3, coils fire, 1, 2, 3. They're wired the same way. The wiring harness is the same. If you use the Jeep log and don't modify that plug, I originally said these 3.3, 3.8 computers, the caravans will run, and you're missing a couple gauge inputs, and you can't turn your overdrive on and off. Well, this is the original computer. When you plug the van coil into the Jeep harness, these are all over the place. So pin 1 on this coil becomes coil 3. So your first 2 cylinders in your group has got to go here. And then coil 1, pin 3 becomes coil 2, so then your second group's got to go here. And then pin 3 goes to pin 1. So your first group goes here. Your second group goes here. And the third group goes here. That's if you just plug this coil directly in. Now, I modified my harness to work with this coil and to help me keep my head straight. So I made this coil 1 and 4 as my first coil, 5 and 2, and 3 and 6. And if you have the wiring diagram for the Jeep and the van, you'll see what these pins are. I broke them out in the video, through the videos. But on the 3.7 and I think the 3.6 or whatever, the coils don't fire 1, 2, 3 because it's 6 coils, coil over plug, and you make your imaginary coils up. If you bridge the gaps how I had said in the video with the brown wires and keeping your colors, right here it is. if you stick with these colors and you keep these 1, 2, 3 coils together, the Jeep 3.7, a Chrysler 3.7, the coils fire 1, 3, 2 instead of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and the Jeep 4.0 fires 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You make your imaginary coils and you keep your coil numbers the same. You make your cylinder partners based on the 3.7. So coil 1 gets connected to coil 4. That's the first coil to fire regardless. Because if you transpose this down to here, that's the first coil to fire. Instead of the second coil firing, the 3.7 fires the third coil. That's where the confusion's at. The coil log will work with the van computer because the Jeep's wired properly for this log. It's when you switch this over, plug that in directly, or you can modify the harness to make these line up. That way you kind of have a roadmap. Like you can look at that coil and say, this is coil 1, this is coil 2, this is coil 3, but you got to modify the wiring because this is wired for the van. Even though it's the same firing order, 1, 2, 3, they flip-flopped these pins around. That's where it gets confusing. But at the end of the day, you got to make your cylinder pairs and then transpose this firing order to here and move the injectors around. That's why this is flipped. I wired my coil internally to make it line up so I could put coil 1, coil 2, coil 3 to even, you know what I mean. So there is this is the confusing part, is trying to keep the pin numbers separate from the coil numbers and the coil separate from whatever. But you make your cylinder pairs to fire properly. But to do it with the Jeep computer, the 3.7, coil 3 is the second coil to fire and not coil 2. They fire like this. So you make your imaginary coils up with the 3 colors that are the same as the Jeep. That keeps your wiring straight in your head, because this is actually still coil 1 with the wiring harness colors. You just add these in where they need to go to match your cylinders up, and you match these cylinders up with 3.7 firing order. But when you wire this to the coil log or your coil, you have to know that coil 3 in this group fires second originally. And then you transpose this down. It's a lot of just fiddle pissing around with wires. But I wanted to clarify on that this will work with the van computer. And if you were stuck on the trail and you had one of these 3.3, 3.8 computers, with exception of wiring the injectors around, it'll get you off trail and it'll run. And that's originally what I did. But I had already done this coil log thing, and I had done this 2-3 years ago, and I've had every imaginable flavor of computer in this Jeep that would work. The 3.6, I believe, worked. The 3.7, very minor changes in the wiring. Just get the pinouts, make everything correct and line up. Double do your notes. Write it down 30 times, and with me, you'll still get it wrong. You'll get dyslexic. You'll get your pin numbers mixed up with your coil numbers because you're trying to flip everything around. You'll get thinking this is coil 3, and it's not coil 3 because that's pin 3. This is the most confusing part of this whole process. But you're going to want to watch this video first. Watch all the other videos. They're kind of in and out of order because YouTube didn't quite upload them in the proper order. I don't know why. I never numbered them properly. I tried there near the end, but like I said, this is my first rodeo with YouTube, and I'm just trying to make this as easy as possible, but I gotta, on the other hand, realize that I knew what was going on, and I'm trying to explain it. So, all right.